Hi bookworms, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. So today's video is all about book series, so without further ado, let's get straight into the video and basically see how many book series I've got. So basically by now you should have hopefully seen my 2022 reading goals. If you haven't, I'll put the link down in the description box, but basically one of my reading goals is to finish off the book series that I have started. Now disclaimer, there's a lot of books. I'm shocked at how many books I've started and have not continued. Like I'm shook. And also they are all fantasy related because I tend to not have any series in crime thrillers because they're all standalones, and my romance, if I have got series, I don't own them, they're on my Kindle, and I'm not actually 100% sure whether I have got series on there, and everything else they tend to be standalone books, so it is just fantasy. So let's just get straight into all of the books. So the first lot of books that I'm going to share with you, I'm not going to show all of the books in the series because this is the longest series I have, but basically it is the Shadowhunter books. So most of them are all up here. This is my Cassandra Clare Shadowhunter shelf, but I thought I'd just show you the first 3 books. So we obviously have the Mortal Instruments series, which I've got in my hands. We've then also got the Clockwork, the Infernal Devices series. We've also got the like Bane Chronicles, the Tales from Shadowhunter Academy. We've also got the Eldest Curses series. We've got the Dark Artifices, and then we've got the Last Hours trilogy, because Chain of Thorns is out this year too. So in my hand I've just got the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments series. So here's the thing, there are so many ways to read the Shadowhunter series. A lot of people just do it by series, a lot of people do it publication order. I was originally doing it by series, but then I actually was looking at how Cassandra Clare does it herself, and I actually like her way, and I think it would make more sense because she has said the way she sort of has done it is you read a couple of books in one series and you start a different series because certain things interlink together, and she said sometimes if you read the full series together, when you read the other series, some of, like, you know, if there was like a war or something happened and might get mentioned there, and if you've already read that series you would probably know that they either failed or defeated it, and so it would sort of already be like a spoiler for the book that's just explaining it, kind of thing. So I've decided that I'm going to do the Shadowhunters reading it how Cassandra Clare would read it. So I've actually put it all in the order she would do it. So I have already started the series. I actually read the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments, which is City of Bones, City of Ashes and City of Glass. However, I read these years ago and I read them at the library. So it has been a while since I read them. Now I have recently read City of Bones. I think I read it last year or maybe the end of 2020. So I kind of already know this story quite well just because of the movie and also the series, the TV series. But I'm sort of in that mind of whether to reread this anyway, just to get an idea. But I want to continue as a series. Now, obviously, there are a lot of books in this series, and there is actually a read-along happening on BookTube. It's a Shadowhunter read-along, and they're all reading the books, but they're doing it in series order. And I was like, I don't really want to do it like that. I like how Cassandra Clare said to do it. I think that makes more sense to me personally, because when I was reading the Shadow and Bone trilogy, I kind of read them in different orders. Like I read Shadow and Bone, and then I ended up reading Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and then I'm going back to the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and there's some bits that's been mentioned in Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom that have spoiled it in Shadow and Bone, so I kind of feel like I should have read it how I should have, like, it been told to read it. So I kind of want to do that purely because I think I won't get spoiled with certain things. So I haven't quite decided whether I will reread City of Bones or whether I will just start back onto 2 and 3, because I honestly can't remember these two. I kind of feel like I might possibly just read the last like 100 pages of this book just so I remember how it ended. But yeah, the Shadowhunter series, there's a lot of them. I really do want to read, because when I read the first 3 books, I remember how much I loved them. Like, it didn't take me long to read these books. They're just so fast paced, and because I know the world because of the movie and also the TV series as well. Like, you know, I've watched City of Bones movie, I would say about 20 times now. It is my go-to movie when I'm feeling quite pants. And the actual Shadowhunter TV series, I think I've watched that from season 1 to 4 about 10 times now. I love it. I don't get bored of it. So I do know the story in the like Mortal Instruments side of things. Obviously I haven't read any of the rest of the books. So that's that series. There are loads of books, so it will probably take me a while. Like, honestly, I could technically put all of the books, each book, in like I read, like, you know, 1 or 2 each month would probably be doable, but obviously there are other books on my TBRs, so I don't know whether like I will be able to read the whole series this year, but I would like to at least make a dent in them. Then next, because it's here, I also would like to finish the Serpent and Dove trilogy. So I read Serpent and Dove, but I need to read Blood and Honey, and I also need to read Gods and Monsters. I absolutely love Serpent and Dove. I think it's brilliant. It's enemies to lovers. It's you know, an arranged marriage. You know, it's witches, it's witch hunters, and then there's a massive big plot twist that I did not see coming. And Serpent and Dove ended in such a way that I was like, I need the other 2 books. So I bought the other 2 books because I knew for a while I will definitely read this whole series. Now, I have heard Blood and Honey is not brilliant. Like, a lot of people said it's awful. A lot of people said, in particular, Lou and Reed, because they obviously in Serpent and Dove, they are a couple, like a proper couple. They're in love with each other. They say in this, it's got to the point where Reed's pushed Lou away because he's dealing with some things that happened to him, and Lou sort of doesn't know what to do, but she's also got other worries, so she's sort of like, he can just sort himself out, sort of thing. A lot of people say that their romance is like dwindled, is not really mentioned a lot in this book, and a lot of people say Reed's quite moany and whingy, and it's just a little bit boring because that's all you get from him. That's what I've seen review wise, like on Amazon in particular. I have seen a few people say this isn't as good as Serpent and Dove, but I am one of those people that I tend to read series and each book to me gets better. So I am going into this thinking it may not be quite like Serpent and Dove, but I'm also sort of feeling like, you know, I'm probably one of the rare ones where I probably do enjoy this. And then Gods and Monsters, it's the 3rd book and it's the last book in this trilogy, and everyone says this is amazing. Like, I think everyone says this is their favourite book out of the 3 books. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this series, and I honestly feel like it might get put into my next coming TBRs because I need Lou and Reed. I need witches. I'm in a witchy mood. I would happily read a witch book after a witch book. I'm in a witchy mood. Next, as I mentioned before, the Grishaverse world. So I read Shadow and Bone. I have just read Siege and Storm. So I've got Ruin and Rising to read. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really enjoy this one. which was shocking because everyone said this was better than Shadow and Bone, but I was the opposite. I just felt like Mal was really, really whiny. He just really couldn't accept who Alina was, and I just got fed up of him. And every time he was whinging and moaning, and she was like upset because she had like upset him, I was just like, for God's sake, like, you're meant to be like love eternal, blah blah blah, and it really isn't that. So I gave this 4 stars. I love Shadow and Bone, and everyone said this is better than the other 2 books. So I'm kind of hoping that this gets better and that we do not get a moaning Mal, because if that's the case, I'm gonna really like struggle. Alongside the Grishaverse world, but it's not the Shadow and Bone trilogy. It is the King of Scars duology. So you've got King of Scars and Rule of Walls, and this concentrates on Nikolai, and this is set a year after the Fold and the Darkling and things like that. So I definitely think I'm gonna love these 2. Actually, I've given these 5 star. I think they are in my 5-star prediction video, which I'll link down below as well. I think I'm going to love them purely because it's Nikolai. I absolutely loved Nikolai in the Six of Crows duology and in Siege and Storm, because he was introduced properly in that book, and I just absolutely love him. I think he's hilarious. Then I'm just going on to this randomly now. So this is obviously a first book in the series. I'm adding this in kind of because I did start reading this in intention that I was going to join in Sydney's Patreon read along where they were reading the Mistborn trilogy. So I started reading this. I cannot, for the love of God, I never marked down what page I was on. That's annoying. I think I read a good 80 maybe 100 pages of this, and I was really enjoying it, but I just had other priority books that I needed to read, so this took a back burner, and I was just like, I will read this, like, I'll try and like binge it in a couple of days before the live show came, but it never happened. I do not have the rest of the books in the series purely because I wanted to try this out, and if I really liked it then I would continue. But I did read quite a good amount. I'm sure I read about, I got a feeling I read either 80 or 100 pages. Like, it was like a good third of the book, and I really enjoyed it. I just didn't finish it. So I'm adding this in here because I do want to finish this, and if I really did enjoy it, which I think I will because of what I read I did, then I will continue on the series. So yeah, I would like to finish this book and then start the series. Then we have the second book in the Infinity, I'm going to say it's like the Infinity series. So I read Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera. I actually won that book in a giveaway, and honestly, if I didn't win it in a giveaway, I probably wouldn't have actually gone to pick it up. I don't know why, I just don't think I would have. I'm so glad I won it because Infinity Sun was amazing. It was so fast paced. It is YA, but I quite like YA fantasy. It's very quick to the point. And it ended in such a cliffhanger that I was like, the first thing I did was find out when the second book out and pre-order it. Which I did, I pre-ordered it and it came when it came. And I kept saying, I'm going to read it, I'm going to read it. I never did. I just read other books. And again, this took a back burner. So this is the last book. It's just a duology, I think. I'm sure it's just a duology. Unless it gives me like a horrendous cliffhanger. I'm not going to read it. But basically we're following brothers Emil and Brighton, who in the first book, Emil found out he had phoenix powers and Brighton didn't. And Brighton was the one where he really wanted to have powers, whereas Emil wasn't bothered by powers. He just thought it was unnecessary. He said it was very isolating, and like there was like a war between who was more powerful and all that, so he really didn't want to have any type of powers, and it turned out he did and his brother didn't. And the end of Infinity Sun, it was basically, there was this specific drug that got made by, I don't know whether it had like phoenix tails. It had some like particular animals in that were like had powerful magical elements, and this person was going to use it, and he was a baddie, like, you know. But in the end, Brighton, the brother who desperately wanted powers, ended up taking that vial and drinking it, and he's now got pretty much these dangerous powers which like shouldn't even be around. And so Brighton drank the Reaper's blood. He believed he'd be invincible. Instead, the potion is killing him. There we are. So basically, in this book, they're trying to find an antidote, but alongside that, there is like a massive big war going on again. And yeah, so I know I'm going to love this book because Infinity Sun was really good. It was really fast paced, and the world building has already been done for you. So in here, it's just going to be straight to the point. But like I said, in pretty much a theme of all of this, I just haven't picked it up. I also need to finish the Discovery of Witches series, or the Old Souls trilogy, should I say. So I read A Discovery of Witches, and I watched the first like season of that and absolutely loved it. Like, it was, well, firstly, I cannot remember his name, Matthew, the vampire. The actor who plays Matthew, he's just gorgeous and the perfect person to play Matthew. I loved the first book, and oh, hello Tammy. I loved the first book, and I also really loved the TV series. Now, I did start watching season 2, but realised that actually was following on from this book, and if I watched that, it was going to spoil it for me, so I stopped reading it. So I need to read Shadow of Night, which is the second book, and then the Book of Life, which is the third book. There is another book which I think is Times Convent or something like that, which I'm not 100% sure. Like, it says this is a trilogy, so I think this is like a sort of the same world but different. I'm not 100% certain. I knew there was another book, but it wasn't particularly directly part of this trilogy. But this is pretty much about a forbidden love, because Diana and Matthew are in love with each other. Diana is a very powerful witch and Matthew is a very powerful vampire, and it's basically they're trying to find a manuscript which basically holds their future. So this book, I think they travelled back in time, and I have no idea what this book is about, but I don't want to read it purely because I don't want to spoil what happened in the second book. But I really enjoyed the first book, so I think I'm going to really enjoy them. And shocking, they're actually historical fantasy, and I really enjoy that. So those books in particular I enjoyed. And then we've got 3 last books of the Throne of Glass series. So this is where I try and find where I was. I don't know where I was. I did start reading Empire of Storms. I did do a book club read along with my book club members. We were doing a Sarah J Maas read along, like my Maas along basically. I did so well, and then when we came to read this, I just lost my reading mojo. And bless, a couple of my book club members are still reading this. They're actually still getting through the series, and I have completely just given up, which is a shame because we were doing so well. I was doing so well, but I would like to finish this series purely because I absolutely love it. Like, I think I love it more than ACOTAR, and that's saying something because I love ACOTAR. But we got Empire Storms, then we got Kingdom of Ash, which is a really chunky book, and then Tower of Dawn. So I need to finish them off, and basically the story is about Eileen, who is Fae, and she's actually the queen, like a queen Fae and all that, and it's basically trying to get her throne back and her kingdom back, and defeating all of these like people trying to, yeah. I'm not going to spoil it because a lot goes on Throne of Glass, but I love it, and I know I'm going to love that series. It's just there's such big books now, and there's a lot going on, and we've got new characters, and I was in such a reading problem. Like, I don't know what. I just lost my mojo. I just didn't want to read, and yeah, so they took a back burner. But I would say Those books and Serpent and Dove, the other two books of them, and the Grishaverse books probably take priority this year, just because I know I'm enjoying them and like I need to finish them off. Then we've got I don't actually know what the actual trilogy is called, but it's An Ember in the Ashes trilogy. So we've got, I read that, so I need to read Torch Against the Night and Reaper at the Gates. Now, I loved An Ember in the Ashes. I thought it was brilliant. However, I cannot remember a damn thing about it. And I don't own the first book anymore because it was an American paperback, because that was the only one that was available to me, and it was also the cheapest. So I can't remember what happened, and I'm there thinking, when I start this, I probably should reread the first one to know what happened. But I don't really want to buy it, and I can't overly be bothered to get it from the library, read it, and then start this, because, yeah. So I do want to read these. However, I think I'm going to have to, like, go on the internet and jog my memory of what happened in them, so then I can start that, because I don't really want to have to reread the first book, because I don't own it, so it means I have to get a copy, and it just means having to read more. But I do know that I loved it. I do know there was like a sort of a romance implied that I'm kind of wondering whether is gonna can continue in the rest of the books. But yeah, it's really, really good. I love the writing. So definitely would like to finish that series. And then, which definitely is going to get finished, I know that for a fact, we have the Bargainer series. So we have A Strange Hymn, which is book 2, and then Dark Harmony, which is book 3. So I loved the Bargainer. I loved the first book. It was absolutely amazing. Like, loved it. I can't believe it took me that long to read it and to even buy it, because it's one of my most anticipated books, but it was a lot of money for a paperback, and I was just like, no, and I was kind of hoping someone would gift it to me. And then I was going through a really bad mental health month, and I was just like, screw it, I'm treating myself to it. I ended up treating myself to the other 2 books because I loved it so much. So these I think I'm going to put in my February TBR, because they are like a dark fantasy romance in my opinion. So I definitely going to be putting them in my February TBR, so at least I can say I've ticked off one not a series. And then we have the hardbacks that I want to share with you, and it's only a couple. So this is sort of another bit like the Final Empire. So I did start reading The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. I think I went about halfway, absolutely loved it, but I had tour books that really needed to take priority, so I had to do them, and then the month completely gone, and I started a new TBR, but I didn't like carry this book over, so I just left it, and I still haven't finished it. But I really do want to finish it. I'm probably going to start straight at the beginning again, purely because I can't remember what actually happened now. But I'm going to do pretty much devour this and then go straight to the second book, which is The Gilded Cage. Yeah, so this is actually the Fairy Loot edition. This is just a normal edition. But yeah, so I'm adding these 2 here purely because once I've done this book, I will go straight into this book, because a lot of people said these 2 books are absolutely amazing, and I really was enjoying The Prison Healer. Next is Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. So I read the first book, which was Children of Blood and Bone. It was the first book club pick in my book club, so we read that back in May, and it was a slow start for me. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it, it was just a lot of world building. It was a culture I knew nothing about, and also a mythology that I knew nothing about, and the names was a real struggle for me to try and pronounce, especially some of the different language. So I ended up actually getting the audiobook version and listening and reading along, which really helped. And the audiobook was narrated so well that it really brought the book alive, and I thoroughly enjoyed the book. It wasn't a full 5 stars because I did feel like it was quite slow at times, but it was still a 4 stars, which is in my standards still good. So I really want to pick up the second book because I want to know what happens, and I really did enjoy it. And I'm hoping to try and get this on audiobook as well, so I can read along and listen along, because I felt that really helped me. But I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I got a feeling I probably will enjoy this book more than the first because the world building has been done, so I think it will be just a little bit more fast paced for me. And then lastly is The Last Graduate, Lesson 2 of The Scholomance by Naomi Novik. So the first book was A Deadly Education. Now here's the thing, I got A Deadly Education from the library. I saw it, I was like, well, this sounds good, I'll go and read it. Read it, absolutely loved it. It's dark academia with monsters, like it's dark academia, supernatural / fantasy book. It was brilliant. It was so funny at times as well, but it was brilliant. And then I pre-ordered the second book out, got it, and then I was like, I really should actually own the first book because I know full well I'm going to love this, and I know full well I want to keep the duology. So I'm going to treat myself the first book, and I might actually do a vlog where I read both of them together. But this continues on from the Scholomance series, the first book, A Deadly Education. I'm not going to say what this is about because I don't really want to spoil it, but I know I'm going to love this because I loved the first one. It was so good, and it was actually my first dark academia read, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's that series. I also do have, which is not really classed as a series, but it's still part of the Grishaverse actually, so I'm going to add it in. It's A Language of Fauns, Midnight Tales and Dangerous Magic. And this is, I think, just talking about the saints. Like, you know, because like you got the Sun Summoner and all that, and they talk about the saints in the Grishaverse. This is what this is about. It's like the fairy tales and like the mythology and stuff about it. So it's not part of the Grishaverse completely, but it's obviously to do with the saints that they talk about in the books, and you get the background of them. So I'm going to count that as well. But yeah, that is the many books in the series. There are loads. Like I said, there are a few that I feel like they take my priority because I really do want to finish the series because I enjoyed them. There's others that I do want to read, but I'm a bit like, ooh. But like, I definitely want to try and tackle the Shadowhunters series. But like I said, there's so many books, so it probably would take me a lot longer than a year. But yeah, let me know if there are any series that you need to finish, and if you actually want to see me do vlogs of series, do let me know. I'm thinking about doing a actual Shadowhunter like vlog series, but I don't know when to start that yet. But yeah, and also if any of these books you need to read too, I'm quite happy to buddy read because it also gives me that nudge to actually read the book. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.